After 62 years of hosting holiday dinners in my own home, I never imagined I'd be introduced as the help at my son's New Year's Eve party. Stay with me to discover how one humiliating evening changed everything I thought I knew about family, dignity, and finding my voice. I've always believed that family is the cornerstone of a meaningful life. For over 6 decades, I've poured my heart into creating a warm, loving home where traditions matter and memories are cherished. My name is Dorothy Jenkins, Dot to those who know me well. And at 67 years old, I thought I understood the rhythm of family life, with all its ups and downs. My late husband Frank and I raised 3 children in our modest but comfortable home in suburban Connecticut, and when Frank passed 5 years ago, I found solace in staying connected to our children and grandchildren. My youngest son, Michael, had always been the sensitive one, thoughtful, attentive, and so much like his father, it sometimes made my heart ache. When he married Vanessa 8 years ago, I was genuinely happy for him. She was beautiful, ambitious, and clearly adored my son. I welcomed her with open arms, hoping we would develop the kind of mother-daughter relationship I never had with my own mother-in-law. The first few years were pleasant enough. Vanessa was busy establishing her career at a prestigious marketing firm in New York City, and Michael was climbing the corporate ladder at his financial consulting company. They lived in a stylish apartment in Manhattan, about an hour's drive from my house. I made the trip once or twice a month, bringing homemade meals and small gifts, trying not to intrude but wanting to maintain our connection. When my granddaughter Emma was born 6 years ago, things began to shift. Vanessa's parents lived in California and couldn't help regularly, so I offered to watch Emma 2 days a week. It was a joy for me, and it allowed them to save on childcare costs while ensuring Emma was with family. I'd make the drive into the city, spend my days with my precious granddaughter, and return home in the evening, tired but fulfilled. As Emma grew older and started preschool, my regular babysitting days dwindled. I still visited, of course, but I sensed a growing distance from Vanessa. She was polite but increasingly dismissive of my suggestions regarding Emma or family gatherings. When they moved to a larger townhouse in an upscale neighborhood 3 years ago, my visits became less frequent, always scheduled rather than spontaneous. Last summer, Michael called with news that both thrilled and concerned me. They were expecting their second child, and Vanessa was having a difficult pregnancy. Would I consider staying with them for a few weeks after the baby was born to help with Emma and household duties while Vanessa recovered? Of course, I said yes immediately. My son needed me, my granddaughter needed me, and despite our differences, Vanessa needed me too. Little Noah arrived in early November, a beautiful, healthy boy with his father's eyes and his mother's determined chin. I moved into their guest room the day they brought him home from the hospital, ready to do whatever was needed. What was meant to be a few weeks stretched into nearly 2 months as Vanessa struggled with postpartum depression, and Michael was overwhelmed with year-end responsibilities at work. I fell into a routine of caring for Emma, helping with Noah, preparing meals, doing laundry, and keeping the house in order. I was exhausted most days, but seeing the relief on my son's face made it worthwhile. Vanessa was appreciative in her way, though she often critiqued how I folded the laundry or prepared certain dishes. I bit my tongue and reminded myself that this was her home, her children, her rules. As December progressed, I gently suggested that I should return to my own home soon, perhaps after the new year. Michael seemed hesitant, but agreed it made sense. Vanessa, however, asked if I would stay through their annual New Year's Eve dinner party. It was an important event for Michael's career, she explained, with several senior executives from his firm attending along with their spouses. Having me there to help with the children and the dinner service would be invaluable. I agreed, of course. 1 more week wouldn't make much difference, and I wanted to support my son's career. What I didn't anticipate was how that evening would shatter my understanding of my place in their lives. The day of the party arrived, and I spent hours helping prepare an elaborate meal under Vanessa's exacting instructions. The house was immaculate, the table setting worthy of a magazine spread, and both children were bathed, dressed, and on their best behavior. I'd even found time to style my silver hair and change into a simple but elegant navy blue dress I'd packed for special occasions. Guests began arriving at 7. I stayed mostly in the kitchen, putting final touches on appetizers and ensuring everything was perfect. Michael stopped in briefly, gave me a quick hug, and whispered, "Thanks, Mom. I don't know what we'd do without you." His sincere gratitude warmed my heart. Around 8, Vanessa came into the kitchen, looking stunning in a form-fitting red dress that showed she'd already lost most of her pregnancy weight. "Dorothy," she said, "could you bring out the champagne and hors d'oeuvres now? And Noah just went down, but if he wakes up, please take care of him quietly. Emma's watching a movie in the den, but she should be in bed by 9. I nodded, arranged the appetizers on a silver tray, and followed her into the living room where about a dozen well-dressed guests were engaged in animated conversation. As I entered, Vanessa turned to the group and announced in a clear voice, "Everyone, this is Dorothy. She's been such a godsend these past few weeks, helping with the children and the house while I've been recovering." A woman in a glittering gold dress smiled at me and asked, "Have you been with the family long?" Before I could answer, Vanessa laughed lightly and said, "Oh, we're so lucky to have her. She's practically part of the furniture now." Another guest, a distinguished-looking man with silver hair, raised his glass in my direction. "Well, good help is hard to find these days. You must be doing something right to keep her around." My hands trembled slightly as I set down the tray. Not once did Vanessa correct their assumption. Not once did she mention that I was Michael's mother, her children's grandmother. In that moment, I became invisible as a family member, reduced to a role of service in their narrative. I caught Michael's eye across the room. He looked uncomfortable, but he said nothing. He took a long sip of his drink and engaged a colleague in conversation, effectively turning away from me and the situation. For the next 2 hours, I moved between the kitchen and dining room, serving food, refilling glasses, and clearing plates. A few guests tried to engage me in friendly conversation, asking how long I'd been in service or whether I had children of my own. I answered politely but briefly, a knot forming in my stomach with each interaction. When I finally got Emma settled in bed, I returned to find Vanessa instructing me, loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, about how to properly load the dishwasher with her expensive china. I stood there, a woman who had raised 3 children, managed a household for decades, and even helped run my husband's small business for years, being lectured on housekeeping basics as if I were a teenager at my first job. The final straw came just before midnight. I was in the kitchen, organizing leftovers and starting the dishwasher when one of the female guests entered, slightly tipsy and looking for the bathroom. Seeing me, she fumbled in her purse and pulled out a $20 bill. "Here you go," she said, placing it on the counter beside me. "You've done such a wonderful job tonight. Happy New Year." I stared at the money, unable to speak. The woman gave me a patronizing smile and left, unaware of the profound humiliation she'd just inflicted. I picked up the 20, walked to the guest room, and closed the door behind me. For the first time that evening, I allowed tears to fall. The party continued well past midnight. I could hear laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. Not once did Michael or Vanessa check on me. Not once did my son introduce me properly to his colleagues and friends. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching that $20 bill, and faced a painful truth. In this house, in their lives, I had become staff, not family. Morning came, and with it, the mess of last night's celebration. I rose early, as was my habit, and started cleaning before Emma and Noah awoke. Michael and Vanessa slept late, emerging around 10, looking tired but satisfied with the success of their party. "Mom," Michael said, finding me wiping down the kitchen counters. "Last night was amazing. Everyone was so impressed with the food and the house. Thank you." I turned to face my son, the boy I had nursed through chickenpox and heartbreaks, taught to ride a bike and tie a tie. "Michael," I said quietly, "why didn't you correct them when they assumed I was the hired help?" He had the grace to look embarrassed. "I didn't think it was a big deal." "Does it matter what they think?" "It matters to me," I replied. "It matters that your wife introduced me, as if I were staff, not your mother and your children's grandmother." Michael ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of his father that my heart clenched. "Mom, you're being oversensitive. Vanessa didn't mean anything by it. She was just acknowledging all the help you've been giving us. By erasing who I am to this family?" He sighed. "Look, some of those people were really important to my career. Vanessa was just trying to keep things professional. And I'm unprofessional? Something to be ashamed of?" "Of course not," he said quickly. "That's not what I meant." Vanessa entered the kitchen then, looking fresh and composed in expensive loungewear. She poured herself a cup of coffee before acknowledging my presence. "Dorothy, could you please make sure the guest bathroom is cleaned properly? The Andersons will be stopping by this afternoon to pick up their coat that was left behind." I put down the cleaning cloth and looked at her directly. "Vanessa, I'd like to talk about last night." She raised an eyebrow. "What about it? I thought everything went perfectly." "You introduced me as the help," I said plainly. "You allowed your guests to believe I was hired staff, not family." She took a sip of her coffee, regarding me coolly over the rim. "I introduced you as someone who helps us, which is accurate. Would you have preferred I explain our entire family dynamic to business associates? I would have preferred to be acknowledged as Michael's mother and your children's grandmother." Vanessa exchanged a glance with Michael. "I think you're making too much of this. It was a business function, not a family gathering. A business function in your home on New Year's Eve, where everyone else was introduced by their relationship to you or their professional status." Michael stepped forward. "Mom, please. It wasn't personal." "It felt very personal when one of your guests tipped me," I said, pulling the $20 bill from my pocket. "This is what I'm worth in your home now." The shock on Michael's face gave me a small measure of satisfaction. He at least had the decency to look horrified. Vanessa, however, merely rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic," she said. "It was a misunderstanding, and honestly, after everything we've done for you—" "Everything you've done for me?" I interrupted, surprising myself with my firmness. "I left my home for 2 months to care for your children, cook your meals, clean your house, and support you through a difficult time. I did it gladly, because that's what family does. But I didn't do it to become your servant." "We never said you were a servant," Michael protested. "You didn't have to say it. You showed it." An uncomfortable silence filled the kitchen. Noah's cries from upstairs broke the tension, and Vanessa sighed dramatically. "Now look what's happened. He's probably hungry." I stepped back, creating physical distance to match the emotional gulf I was feeling. "I'm going home today," I announced. "I've already packed my things." Michael looked alarmed. "Mom, don't be hasty. Let's talk about this when everyone's calmer." "I am calm," I replied, "and I've made my decision. I love you, Michael. I love Emma and Noah, but I won't stay where I'm not respected as a person and as your mother." I left them standing in the kitchen and went to the guest room to finish packing. As I folded my clothes and placed them in my suitcase, a lifetime of memories flooded through me, holding infant Michael in my arms, teaching him to read, cheering at his graduation, dancing at his wedding. How had we arrived at a place where he could stand silent while I was diminished in his home? Emma found me as I was zipping my suitcase. "Grandma, are you leaving?" Her little face was creased with concern. I sat on the bed and pulled her onto my lap. "Yes, sweetheart. It's time for me to go back to my house. But who will read me stories and make pancakes the right way?" I hugged her tightly. "Your mommy and daddy will take good care of you. And I'll visit, I promise. You can come to my house too, and we'll make all the pancakes you want." She seemed satisfied with this and helped me carry my smaller bag to the car. Michael followed with my suitcase, his expression troubled. "Mom, please reconsider," he said as we stood by my car. "Vanessa didn't mean any harm." I touched his cheek gently. "It's not just about last night, Michael. It's about recognizing when it's time to reestablish boundaries. I'll always be your mother, and I'll always be there when you truly need me. But I need to be treated with respect." "I do respect you," he insisted. "Then show it," I replied, "and expect it from others in your home, including your wife." I kissed Emma goodbye, hugged my son, and drove away without looking back. The hour's drive home gave me time to process the mixture of emotions churning within me: hurt, anger, disappointment, but also, surprisingly, a sense of liberation. For 2 months, I had subjugated my needs and identity to serve my son's family. It was time to reclaim myself. My house welcomed me with its familiar silence. I unpacked, made myself a cup of tea, and sat in my favorite chair, surrounded by photos of a lifetime of family moments. I picked up one of Michael as a teenager, grinning proudly beside his father after catching his first fish. We had taught him about respect and appreciation then. Somewhere along the way, in his adult life, those lessons had become muted. That evening, as I prepared a simple dinner for one, my phone rang. It was Michael. I answered, hearing the contrition in his voice immediately. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he began. "I've been thinking about what happened, and you're right. I treated you terribly. I should have said something last night, and I should have defended you this morning." "Yes, you should have," I agreed, not making it easier for him. "I talked with Vanessa," he continued. "It didn't go well at first, but we're working through it. She doesn't always understand family the way we do. Her parents were different. I knew this, of course. Vanessa's parents were wealthy, distant figures who showed love through financial support rather than time and presence. It explained some of her behavior but didn't excuse it. Understanding her background is important," I said, "but it doesn't change that I need to be respected as your mother and as a person." "I know," he said softly, "and I want to make this right. Will you give me, another chance?" I considered his question carefully. "I will always give you another chance, Michael. You're my son, but things need to change." Over the following weeks, I maintained distance while remaining open to healing. Michael called regularly. Vanessa sent a formal but sincere apology note with flowers. Emma and I had video calls where she showed me her drawings and practiced reading to me. A month after the New Year's Eve incident, Michael asked if they could visit. They arrived on a Saturday morning, all 4 of them. Noah had grown noticeably in just a few weeks. Emma ran into my arms as if we'd been separated for years. Michael hugged me tightly, whispering another apology in my ear. Vanessa stood awkwardly in my living room, taking in the modest furnishings and personal touches that made this house my home. She handed me a carefully wrapped package. "This is from all of us," she said, "but it was my idea." Inside was a beautiful photo album. The first page held a family portrait, Michael, Vanessa, Emma, Noah, and me, professionally taken just days before. The inscription read, "To the heart of our family, with love and respect." As I turned the pages, I found dozens of photos spanning decades. Me as a young mother with Michael, family holidays, my wedding to Frank, candid shots from recent years with Emma. It was the visual story of my life as mother and grandmother, lovingly preserved. "I didn't understand," Vanessa said quietly, while the children played in the next room. "In my family, roles were always clearly defined. Employees were employees, family was family, and we didn't mix the two. But Michael helped me see that in your family, love is shown through service and presence, not titles and positions." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was honest. And in that honesty, I saw the possibility of building something new between us. Not the idealized mother-daughter relationship I had once hoped for, but perhaps a genuine friendship based on mutual respect and our shared love for Michael and the children. That day marked a turning point. We established new boundaries and expectations. I would visit regularly, but not stay for extended periods. I would help with the children when asked, but not assume household responsibilities. And most importantly, I would be acknowledged and introduced as who I truly was, Grandma Dot, Michael's mother, family. 6 months later, Vanessa's company transferred her to their Boston office. They moved to a suburb just 30 minutes from my house. Now I see Emma and Noah twice a week, sometimes more. Michael and I have lunch alone occasionally, rebuilding the connection that had frayed. Vanessa and I will never be best friends, but we found a comfortable respect that makes family gatherings pleasant rather than tense. Last week, Vanessa called to ask if I would help host Emma's 7th birthday party. "We need your expertise," she said, "and Emma wants everyone to know that her grandmother makes the best birthday cakes in the world." As I hung up the phone, I smiled at how far we had come from that painful New Year's Eve. At 67, I had learned that standing up for my dignity wasn't selfish but necessary, for me and for teaching the next generation about respect. In reclaiming my identity as more than just helpful hands, I had actually strengthened the family bonds I cherished so deeply. And that $20 tip? I framed it alongside a photo of me with Emma and Noah, a reminder that my worth in this family couldn't be measured in dollars, but in love freely given and respect rightfully earned.